was going around by itself there.
Buffalo.
But anyway, we're back!
We're back!
Issues!
Hey! That worked, kind of. At long last. Maybe? I don't know.
Well, you called it though, so it instantly failed.
Ah, damn. Ruined my own surprise. Hello, friends and followers. As always, with us is Isaiah, Tim, Mel, and Bray, and today we're talking to you about Tank Girl.
Not just any girl. Tank Girl.
Indeed. Released in 1995, based off of...
Amidst a slew of other great instant classic movies. So if you haven't heard of this, it's no wonder. You
Sorry,
saw
Tank
Apollo
Girl.
13, right?
Toy Story.
Toy Story.
7. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Just a few of the
Empire
classics.
Records.
Yeah.
Pocahontas.
Pocahontas.
So just a little bit of competition.
Bridges over
against this one.
Madison County.
This was the 39th film to be released that year, right?
I think that's how it was breaking it down.
Breaking it down. Well, it should have been released last, because then everyone would be talking about the greatest film ever made.
You standing by that?
I'm sitting by that, near it. But we'll
Also,
see.
just looking at this, why did Ice-T have second billing when Naomi Watts was definitely the second lead?
Because it's Ice-T.
Okay,
Yeah.
He's quite refreshing. And no one had heard of Naomi Watts at the time of this
No,
movie,
She's
right?
very new.
But yeah, Tank Girl was created by Jamie Hewlett and Alan Martin. First published back in 1988. It was a very small indie kind of comic set in a post-apocalyptic wasteland.
British, like Judge Dredd, which we watched as well. So check out our Judge Dredd tie-in.
Yeah, for sure. It's very that post-apocalypse. There's a big corporation that has all the water and everything, and then Tank Girl is with the rebels that are trying to get stuff back for the little people.
Water is the currency.
Yeah, definitely.
So like Waterworld, and we drew parallels, right, to Fury Road.
Mad Max.
Mad Max.
Yep. Special guest star Lawrence.
Thanks for that one, Dad.
Made a good call on that. Let's kick it off. What do we like about Tank Girl? For all those sitting out there.
I'll go
checking
first
it out.
since I did this. I liked everything about this movie. For
That was quick.
for a bad movie.
Okay, done.
All right. Thanks for tuning in.
2 seconds, Tim. That's a record.
This is a great bad movie. This is like how you do a cheap budget bad movie done. Everybody brought their A game, from the background extras to the set design. I didn't see anybody dicking around on set unless that was their they were hired to be dicking around on set guy, and they were credited because this movie did everything right. The set design was amazing. Great use of miniatures and practical effects. They had a real tank and a real helicopter, which you probably got at a garage sale, and
What garage sales do you go to?
the best kind.
Please loop me in.
But
McDowell.
yeah, McDowell was great, over the top, hamming it up, acting. Naomi Watts was awesome. Lori Petty was awesome. I'll save some of this for you guys, but yeah, set design, costume design. I really liked everything. The Stan Winston took a pay cut to make those awesome kangaroos. Stay tuned for the pitch segment to hear why I think that's the best thing ever. But yeah, this is how you do a bad movie great. And I think the R rating was unfair. It kind of hurt this movie, and it just if they had released this in 1996 or something, 94 was another good year for films, so probably wouldn't have worked. Alongside
So you're saying it's ahead of its time?
Oh yeah, I think so. If they had come out now, I said during the show, how many great movies come out in a year now? 2 or 3, right? Even Oscar movies, you're kind of that's an Oscar movie. But then we had we're talking 40 movies right off the top of your hat. So yeah, no,
in 95, yeah.
In 1995,
Yeah.
so
It's a good year.
That was a good year.
So it's going to be those
I'll stand by
watershed
this.
years.
This isn't my favorite, but in terms of bad movies, this is one of the best bad movies I've ever watched.
Cool.
I'll leave it at that.
I really actually enjoyed the illustration, the little animation sequences that kept cutting in. I know that it was a way to save money, and there was a bunch of scenes and footage that they needed that they didn't have, and this was one of the ways to kind of work around that. but I actually really enjoyed it. I do think it was absolutely overused. Like, it was a little bit milked.
Was it used perfectly?
No.
To the perfect level? No, maybe not.
But I think some of the sequences were like a little too long and probably trying to tell a little bit too much. But I mean, a smart way to get around a difficult thing.
Yeah.
And not having the shots you need to connect things together.
Yeah, I mean, do you just not release the movie, or do you just cut in some animations? Like, it's a great idea, and some of it was really effective. I really enjoyed it.
Creative editing. Like, you couldn't have done that in Dead Man Walking, right? Like, we missed a bit of the walking. That's okay. Just animated it.
Oh, jeez. Isaiah?
I mean, not to just reiterate, like, I agree with Tim. Like, there's a lot to like about it. I liked just how unfettered it seemed, you know? It's just like stupid jokes that don't necessarily land, but like they're just going for it. It's just like it knew what it was, and it was just like having a little bit of fun with it. I like that about it.
You compared it to Deadpool a little
bit,
right?
It's like an as far as comic book movies, like they never, it was like Batman Forever came out the same year. It's like you can sort of tell they were trying to take it seriously while still trying to poke fun at. This one's just like, nah, it's just have some fun with it. Again, it didn't always work. Like, some of the jokes didn't always land, but it's just like unfettered. They just had fun, you know. It just seemed like they were just having a good time. Yeah, that's about it. I don't know, without saying everything that other people have said.
It was fun.
I will chime in. Laurie Petty, I think, did a great job as Tank Girl. I don't know if that got mentioned, but yeah, I thought she really brought a cool characterization to it, which was great. And other shout out will be the soundtrack. As well,
yeah.
just so we're not repeating ourselves. Yeah, I think the soundtrack was great. Just like going through who performed songs in the soundtrack at the end of the credits was really cool to see the wide variety that was there.
Right? Yeah,
naturally Ice-T has a couple in there as well.
There must have been quite a bit of hype before this film was made, because some of the names they got involved.
I would like to see what people thought of it before it came out. You know?
Right. Like how beloved was Tank Girl in the comic annals.
I was reading that I believe it was James Cameron and Spielberg were interested in having a hand in this movie as well. So like there's some
Maybe they did, because why else would Stan Winston take a pay cut like so readily, right? Unless he knew what he was getting into. Right?
I also like that it was an R-rated, female-driven comic book movie that came out in 1995.
Yeah. I think
Disney.
I think
it doesn't always work, but there's a lot to like about the movie. So I don't think that they like crashed and burned when they made this movie. Oh, and Malcolm McDowell. I know you said that already, but
he was great. He was awesome.
It's my boy.
The 5 minutes that he was a part of the movie were fantastic.
Exceptional.
Yeah,
but they used that 5 minutes well.
They did,
right?
They
saved something for the end, which is nice. Whereas usually they don't.
Yeah.
Bad planning, right?
Yeah. I mean, I won't go into. I'm touching into the next
pitch
part
territory.
A bit. No, not pitch territory. More a bit of a grind.
Was there something you didn't like? All right.
I thought we were just gonna scratch that section.
This movie was perfect.
Well, stay tuned.
Back
all right. Okay, so let's get.
I've got iced tea.
Special guest star, Ice-T.
For those of you playing at home. Guess what I
said? All right, let's keep this train rolling, and let's delve into the things that not necessarily go down smooth. Isaiah, you wanna kick us off?
I have to go on the other side. I was not fond of the way that the kangaroo guys looked. I thought they were creepy.
Yes!
I thought that it looked like guys in big puppet suits.
Yes!
And then, like, her romance, I wish that it was, like, less human and more kangaroo to make, you know what I mean? Like like snouts were longer or something. Like it just looked too human, but not enough human to not look like a weird prosthetic. I don't know.
And then when they raised their tails.
Yeah, it really didn't work
Just a little
for
bit.
me. And like there's some like budgetary things that I could harp on. Like you can see the wires at some points with the kangaroos again jumping around, but that's not really whatever. You know, it's a cheap movie. The story was hard to follow. I didn't know who wanted what, why, where. Motivations were murky.
The basic who, what, where, when,
Yeah,
why.
like there is a lot to like, but they did fail on like a lot of fundamental levels with the story. I mean, maybe that's because, like we were saying, like it's one of those situations where the studio stepped in last minute to like wrest control away from the director.
Disney.
So like maybe that's what happened, and like
I hit a front of my throat.
It's weird. I keep hearing this echo. Like,
there's like a better film somewhere in there.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think it's a better film story wise. There's a lot of people brought their A game. But yeah, for me the story was very hard to follow, and those kangaroo guys were definitely just like I just thought they looked weird and creepy.
Agreed on both counts for sure.
I totally agree. I think that like the R rating, I don't think it needed to be there, but I feel that they could have also gotten rid of some of the senseless sexualization. Like, I don't mind bringing sex into a movie, but like there's a time and a place, and I feel like they just kind of overdid it a bit, and it felt like there was just sex in the story for no reason. With some of the jokes and some of the... Yeah, I don't know. Or if... Keep it all in there, but make it relevant to the story.
Agreed.
Like, one or the other. Either don't have it, or have it, and have it there for a reason.
Like a kangaroo pizza delivery man subplot would have really elevated.
I mean, not quite what I was thinking, but... Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I think that kind of feeds into a lot of the problems that I had. This is a movie called Tank Girl, and I feel like there's a severe lack of tank and girl happening throughout the entire movie.
Where was the scene where it plows through a wall or like over some cars
right.
or like...
Agreed. And I think this
Did it
movie...
ever shoot?
Multiple times with no one in the cockpit. She went off on her parachute in that final sequence, and then the tank is just driving through the entire compound, randomly shooting, and then decides to shake its giant gun when she wants it to shoot Malcolm McDowell, which you're like, that's the one person I feel you should be shooting in this entire movie, and you instead shoot him with beer cans.
It was like the Bane death. Catwoman, killing Bane instead of Batman, right? It like swooped in and I agree.
I think it's worse in my opinion. I don't know. Like I think for me as well, it's the story with this movie. I think this suffers from trying to explain where this character came from, how all these things come together, why she has a mutated kangaroo as a boyfriend, why she's friends with a girl from a jet, and why... I think they tried to justify the whole antagonistic relationship between Tank Girl and the Water and Earth Corporation, but it's just kind of unnecessary. It's like big evil corporation that's hoarding resources. Everyone else is living in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. You don't need to justify that. It literally tells you exactly what it is. Yeah, sorry, I'm on my soapbox, but there's a lot of...
You mentioned the little girl as well.
Oh, I don't even want to go there. Like, oh my god, just like...
Why was she in the movie?
How can we raise the stakes, guys?
That's what it was.
Why she was in the movie.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, just set it all, like, about halfway through the movie and then play it from there to the end. Like, we didn't need that first half of the movie at all. It wasn't required. It didn't add anything to it, and... Anyway, I'm just rambling now, but yeah, that's my main thing. Tim?
Bring it home. I got 2.5 minutes. That'll do. No, as for everything that was good about this movie, it's a product of its time. It is also a victim of its time. So in the 90s, you couldn't just make a Tank Girl movie where it's like oh, this is the one episode where they're in the desert and they find an oasis and maybe there's a house and in that house it might be haunted or like some side story. This had to encompass the whole world, had to be at stake, and they needed the damsel and they needed the main antagonist, and so as a result you end up with this like sprawl, and the story suffers for trying to include all the major beats that probably would have made up 2 or 3 years of the comic issues, right, in the run. But they're like, put it into 2 hours. And this is what Judge Dredd suffered from.
Yeah.
This, right? Like, versus... So, imagine this done in the way they did the Carl Urban Dredd, right? So instead of it being the whole world and everything, and make it feel like 3 hours, even though apparently it was only 2 hours. But, you know, it's... Or you have the one police call where they go into the apartment complex and they just got to bust a few drug dealers, and that's your one side story. Like, this movie could have done better that way. And... You know, and where it did fail, I'll agree, is like, I did want to see more iconic tank stuff, like treads crushing skulls, like, where's your Terminator shout out? Where was your breaking through the brick wall?
Yeah, and
shooting Malcolm McDowell?
Yeah, and to be fair, we do see some of that in the animated bits, and unfortunately, they steal the show, and they're some of the best parts of the movie for me. So.
Do you suppose it's possible that a really good director, producer might have been like, hey, I've got this stuff to do, then they went over budget and was like, no, my credibility alone will get us that extra few million we need for this stuff, and then they were like, nah, let's get the creators to do some animation, it's just as good. But it wasn't?
I know, I was reading an interview with the creators of Tank Girl, Hewlett and Martin, and they were saying that this is a bit of a sore point for them because it very much felt like they were dealing with a bunch of suits who were trying to be like, no, this is cooler, no, this is cooler, and the story and everything just wasn't really staying true to who the character was or the source material, and it just, yeah, it felt like there was a lot of hands trying to, like, be like, this is how we get tickets and make money, and...
The only way that's acceptable is if the hands are all metal that shoot spikes and all the suits are translucent plastic.
You know that they actually stopped writing the comic for a decade, apparently, because they were so...
Oh, really?
upset with... product.
That's kind of awesome. I kind of got to track down this comic. To be fair, I haven't read it, so I don't know. The Ghost House thing, that was just out of my butt. But I don't know. What else?
Stay tuned. We'll let you know what we rate this one.
And they're like, how do we get out of the tank? How do we? Anyway, are we going? We're rolling.
Oh yeah.
And we're here.
Take us away to the review section. And
cool.
Where am I?
Well, this is the part where we tell you whether or not we liked it. You should kind of know by now.
Gee, Tim, what did you think?
I thought this movie was awesome.
Great. But
we have special rules. How awesome was it? That's the important question.
Yeah. So, and in the name of consistency,
we decided to be
inconsistent.
Exactly. So, thanks to Mel as mostly the usual.
Yeah.
We've decided to rate this out of
90s buffalo goggles.
These are all.
How many sets of 90s buffalo
presume
goggles?
have windscreen wipers on them. We'll just say they do.
Yeah.
In the 90s,
how else do you get rid of the dust?
Windscreen wipers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
90s buffalo goggles.
You know who has a lot of lice? Buffaloes.
Buffaloes.
Do you think the buffalo spirit went into the tank?
100%.
That's what I think. Yeah.
That was clear. That was the one piece of story that I understood.
Yeah.
They have to exercise the tank at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
If you had 90s buffalo lice on your crotch, would that have been 90s buffalo crabs? And would that have been something John Peters? What's that guy?
John
Waters?
No, not John Waters.
Oh, John Peters.
John Peters
I
would
think
have
we're
put in
getting
a
a little
movie.
off topic.
No.
I don't need long to tell you I thought this movie was great. I will give this...
Alright, we're back. So,
I mean, it's still... Okay, so... Is Logan still like 5 90s buffalo goggles? Is that how we would rate that?
I think Logan's the only movie that we've all unanimously rated like a perfect score. I think that was immediately after viewing it.
I had an idea for when we perfect score things as well.
Oh, we should have like a special
if we
thing
have
do.
like a certain rating that we perfect score, our pitch segment.
Then you get a car, and you get a car.
That too, but our pitch segment becomes a reverse pitch. How would you make the movie
worse?
bad?
Oh. How would
Yeah.
they have made the movie work?
Yeah.
I like it.
That's a good idea.
That is.
But
good.
anyway, so how many goggles?
Okay, well, granted this was a bad movie, and most of the movies, in terms of I tend to bias towards how personally I enjoyed a movie, and this is, to be fair, the second time I've seen this movie, and I think I enjoyed it even more. So I've been pretty harsh, I think, in season 2 of Back Issues.
Evil Tim has been in the house, yeah.
I know, but I didn't shave this morning, and my stubble is coming back, so I'm gonna give this solid 4 sets of 90s Buffalo goggles.
Damn.
Bringing all the neon.
Wow.
I really like this movie, and I think it's a shame that it came out under the weight of so much other good stuff. I think it's a victim of timing, of budget. It's a victim of kicking out a great director, producer. I don't understand. So I would like to see them do something with this. This is the one time I won't be pitching, though, a Logan old interpretation version of it, but maybe. So, I'll give this 4. 4 sets of 90s neon buffalo goggles.
Wow.
Damn.
Wow.
Boom.
Probably going to be the highest one.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have
So-
ended on here.
Yeah, for my purposes, I enjoy it on that level of it's 90s cheese ball. It's a lot of really committed performances. Malcolm McDowell just chewing everybody up. But it's not a good movie. For me, rating it any higher than 2 is gonna be too much. So I'm gonna give it 2.5.
Oh.
I'm gonna give it the Malcolm McDowell bump of a half a 90s Buffalo goggles.
So
The unsolicited Malcolm McDowell bump.
I think I've given a lot of movies that we've watched in the last several weeks straight down the middle.
Yeah.
2.5 because it's I feel so conflicted about
Yeah.
this movie even more so than some. It's so much to like and there's just so much not good about it, and I'm just I've been.
If
I've
all
been
the
chickening
practical
out.
effects were CGI and all the prosthetics were CGI, this movie would not be a 4. But there was so much work and blood and sweat, and anyway.
Yeah, I'm torn because there's so much good redeeming things to do with this movie. But, I mean, the story's pretty integral, and I find it hard to rate this movie well, considering how poorly the story was executed. But I friggin' loved so much of it. So I'm going with a 3.
Oh, wow.
Three-
Respectable. I like
Nice.
that.
3 Buffalo goggles, 90s version. But they're they've got a romance, schmear on them.
They're rose-colored.
Yeah, they're definitely
Rose-colored.
rose-colored. 'Cause it's not a 3, I
Neon.
can tell you that, but I'm giving it a 3.
Without the rose coloring.
Yeah.
Consistently inconsistent.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. This is tough. I think I have to go with my feeling when I end this movie, because so Tim's been talking about Tank Girl for quite a while. He's
A
been
long
pitching
time.
us Tank Girl probably ever since we started Pseudo
yeah.
Season 2.
We actually watched it just so he'd stop talking about
Yeah, pretty
it.
much, yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, this afternoon, I thought, you know what, he's been talking about this so much, I'm gonna actually research it and look and see what Tank Girl is. And I started to read about it, and I actually got really excited. I thought this could be a really good movie, looking at some of the stills of it as
Was
well.
it the Kangaroos?
The Kangaroos, I was like, I saw some images of what they look like in the comics, and they do have the longer snout and everything, and they look really, really cool in that. But honestly, my expectations were not met, even for bad movie side of things, and I feel conflicted, but I think I have to do this. This is getting a single pair of buffalo from me. They are the same pair of buffalo goggles that were on said buffalo in the movie, though. Fluoro green and fluoro pink. But they're worn. They're well down. I don't know. I really wanted to like this movie. I really, really did. But I think the nail in the coffin as well was
tried really hard,
was
guys.
mutant kangaroos with American accents they were either made by the army, but then they were like reincarnate. So many weird. I don't know.
I mean, to be fair, until they showed up, I probably would have given this movie a 3. It's just they weirded me out. Like
You liked it less because
I
of
liked
them?
it less because of
I
them. Like
would have
Ice-T,
not included them at all.
Like Ice-T,
They're like the best part.
Oh my goodness.
Other than
Dreadlocks was good.
Naomi Watts
didn't
was
enjoy
great.
it, and,
Malcolm McDowell.
making Kerouac jokes. It's just,
Loved the armor. If I saw more of them with their armored face and then the armor that they had and them just fighting, I would have really enjoyed it. But as soon as they took that off, I was just like, oh.
He looked like the Predator. The first appearance of it, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and
it
that was cool.
fun.
I was really excited. But then afterwards, I was just like, oh, this is kind of weird. And I don't.
It's because they didn't have Australian accents. So
That is a
part
big
of it.
thing for me as well. Yeah.
Would you
I
really
gotta
want to hear Ice-T doing an Australian accent?
Okay, why would Ice-T be cast if it was going to be an Australian, though? Like, I don't understand. Like, yeah. This.
wasn't Hugh Jackman working at this point?
Oh.
Maybe I do want to see a Logan-style version of this.
Well, on that note, if you want to know what it is we think could have been done with this, stay tuned and see what we're pitching. Alrighty, my friends and followers. So, there's been talk, as always, of what we would do differently in regards to this movie.
I say get rid of the kangaroos.
Okay, well, kick us off then, Mal.
Yeah.
Kick us off.
Or use them and have a whole scene of them like... No. I was like they're kangaroos and they're like beefy. They should have been fighting and like doing... But no.
Full frontal nudity. No.
No.
Earn that
I do not agree.
We got that portrait in the background at one point
We
in time.
did.
It was missing the kangaroo ears, but you know we did have.
I honestly though I think get rid of the kangaroos, and maybe focus on like simplifying the narrative, and just picking like one common enemy. Have something that's really important to Tank Girl that she's fighting for, and you know take it back to basics. As like a story, like plot idea though. I really loved this idea of sucking the water out of people.
Oh yeah, that was great.
I do think like a much larger quantity could have been harnessed from the people, considering we're like at 65-70% or whatever.
It was probably an effects, limitation that they couldn't.
Possibly.
But I agree.
Yeah, but I just loved that idea of like, oh, water is a resource and it's a commodity. People are made of water, so like what if they were farming people?
Yeah.
And this was the thing that she was, like people don't really know where they're getting their water from. Because I suppose that this company probably hands out water.
Yes.
And so I would be interested to see that part of society where it's like this company's rationing water to people. They don't know what they're drinking. Then they find out what they're drinking. Then people stop drinking. Then people start dying.
Like
then
Soylent
Tank
Soylent
Girl,
Green, yeah, totally.
someone needs to step in and stop the madness. That's what I want
Man,
to see.
he could have had a Charlton Heston cameo. That would have
He could have been one of the kangaroos.
Yeah. And then
He would have wanted to use guns.
And then
Would've.
Malcolm ends up dying at the hands of his own, like, mad
Device?
contraption.
Yeah.
Should have been like,
That would've been
drained.
And then she drinks him.
Oh yeah.
Too easy.
And spits him out.
Yeah. yeah.
The water's like that.
It's gone. Yeah.
Yeah. It's gone
Yeah,
bad.
it's gone bad.
I like it.
Isaiah, you wanna?
Yeah, I have some
roll on?
thoughts. I don't know what the source material is for this, but maybe stick to that a little closer. I mean, if your movie made the creators of the comic not write that comic for a decade after your movie came out, maybe you fucked that up. And I think I would have liked to have seen it all animated exactly like it was, like in that Don Bluth-y, like a little bit, like how Don Bluth cartoons are, like there's almost too many frames of like movement, like it looks a little unnatural.
Mhm.
Just like keep the R rating, keep the cast.
Philo Goes West and all that stuff. Land Before Time.
R rating,
You
keep the
guys.
cast. making an R-rated, like, heavy metal-esque cartoon comic book adaptation. And, like, you can throw all the things about the water. Like, you can do all the weird stuff you wanted to do and, like, all the cutaways. Could have been, like, the first... Could have beat Family Guy to the punch in, like, 1995 with, like, weird little cutaways, the non-sequiturs and stuff. I think that's what they were trying to do.
Right.
With, like, some of the things, but didn't have the budget or, like, the wherewithal to, like, commit to it, or, like, they got kiboshed by the studio. That would be my thing, you know, don't piss off the creators so much that they stop writing it for a decade, and just animate it, and just...
Here's a tip!
Yeah, just, like, keep it R-rated, but, like, just work on the story, give the script a few more goes.
Yeah.
That'd be about it.
Yeah. Tim?
Yeah, tighter story. I can't disagree with that. It is a shame that it sort of suffers from that. I wonder how much of it was editing.
I would love to see the film the director wanted to show.
Well, I was just about to suggest a director's cut, actually. I wonder if it exists, because that might be interesting. And you know what, I was gonna go for a kind of a Logan thing, but what about an animated sequel to this? Like, it would be kind of interesting to see where they're at now in Tank Girl, and maybe there is a kind of Fury Road kind of story to tell with this, like, where they've... the other thing, too, like, Malcolm McDowell was great as the villain, but, like, how does a guy like that realistically run a corporation like that? Like, maybe he should have been reporting to, like, an algorithm that was a little more like Skynet, and maybe they were harvesting things, and he's gone so insane because he's used to, like, drinking people, and, like, he knows all the ins and outs of it, so he's so mad. The other thing, though, why is Harley Quinn here? Because how awesome would it have been? So Lori Petty, apparently, we discovered as we were filming this, she was the voice of Livewire in the Superman animated series, right? From the 90s, and that makes perfect sense. She's the other great female antagonist of, you know, DC characters that made the transition from the animated shows to the comic books. And I thought it would be awesome if they ever did a Michael Keaton Batman Beyond movie, that she would play, like, old woman Harley Quinn as kind of a mob boss or something. But that could work just as well. Like, if you're going to go the animated route, or like a brilliant CG movie, or a heavy metal inspired animated telling of this, it'd be neat to not have to tell the whole world in one movie. Like, maybe this would make a great season-long show. And, like, you know, you go out into the wasteland, the kangaroos don't have to be as huge a part, but I would like to see more of their culture. And, like, maybe they weren't just... Well, like, why were they using kangaroos as their mutated alternative? You know, was it because the turtles were busy? Like, so maybe there were other aliens or other type creatures that they were cloning, and you could get that whole, like, you know, algorithm that is designing human culture in the wake of this wasteland apocalypse, and it's keeping the human species alive, you know, cannibalizing itself, and you could bring in some more of that. I would have loved to see a little more, because there was a lot of that, like, it wasn't like 60s psychedelic, it was like 90s cyberpunk, but they could have brought in more of that, like, you're in the drug tripping kind of stuff, you're in the wasteland, she should have been, like, in the desert, wandering, you know, dying of thirst, and, like, has a hallucination. That's where she could have first met one of the kangaroos, and you think it's, like...
You're not sure if it's real.
Or not, and it's leading her off to, like, water, to an oasis, and then the oasis and all these kangaroos are bowling. They should have been a little more chill. Like, everybody lived, like, they were like John Connor's Resistance the whole time.
Yeah.
And I would have liked to see them a little more like, no, we've left the war. We're they're hippies, they're pot-smoking, you know, draft dodgers, and they've been in the war, and it's like, takes a lot more work for her and Naomi Watts to have to bring them back into the war, into the fight. You know, like, I agree. The story was... It suffers from being a movie that had to shoehorn everything into a movie at once. But it just, like, I mean, whereas Aquaman does that perfectly. They take the entire source material and give it to you in one ice-cold glass of water. This movie, it doesn't, right? It's more like a glass of sand. And that works, too, to the source material, but it was a little hard to swallow at times. I agree. But there was a lot to do, and I think... Tank Girl deserves another chance at the spotlight. So, I would do something along those lines.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you covered a lot of ground there, Tim. I think the only thing that I can really say on this one, I agree with the animation side of things. I think I would do black and white animation style with like hints of color coming in at certain points, just to kind of
A lot of
into
neon,
that.
right?
Yeah, play into that psychedelic side of it, and just have Tank Girl already have her tank and everything. She lives in it. She has Jet Girl, and she's got the boyfriend and everything. I think the trying to explain it all and justify it all was just, it took too much time and wasn't necessary. And yeah, just you know what? Give us some more time with Malcolm McDowell's character as well. His head got cut off, and then it didn't get revealed until the end that his head was still there, and it was a hologram. And we didn't talk about this, but like they deliberately avoided showing it, even though it was just his head. That's, I just don't know, like, why?
Well,
He was that was not a good reveal.
Unavailable.
Build that villain up a little bit more, as you say. Like, why is he doing all of these
I'm
things?
picturing this phone call to his agent be like, we just need him on set for one more day. Well, you're gonna have to pay him another $2,000.
Yeah.
We can't. We don't have the money.
I got it. We put this white mask with angry eyebrows. It's just as good as Malcolm McDowell.
No one will know. No one will ask questions.
Yeah. But all in all, I think there's so much potential with Tank Girl as well. And I mean, you know, we did have fun watching it. Like,
It was a lot of fun.
It was fun.
Yeah.
You would put this on at a party.
And it's so unique and different, I think, than a lot of what other people are doing with comic book movies and stuff as well, especially at this time. Like, I think, you know, they really made some bold choices. And I got to give them props for that. I just wish that there'd been a little less infighting going on with the movie as well. But, yeah, all in all,
too bad.
I think
it's emerging as a trend for like the worst ones we watch. Is like, oh, it's the studio stepped in and strong-armed the creators out of it. This is the movie we got.
Yeah.
And 22 years later, nobody's learned their lesson.
But isn't that the problem with everything, where communication fails and, you know, people are operating on different understandings of what book they're in or whatever?
It's always also the joy of, like, you know, business and art, like, coming together and trying to find that happy medium. You're always going to have those people that are involved just thinking about the dollars, and then everyone else is like, no, but my vision.
Well, isn't that why you're hiring them? I'm going to paraphrase George Lucas here, and it's like, I mean, filmmaking is like gambling. You hire, like, a young 20-something-year-old with a ponytail. You sit them down at the craps table and you say, do your magic, right? But then you can't swoop in when they're about to double down and say, actually, no doubling down.
Yeah.
Well, that's not craps, but
that
you know
is
what I mean.
that is the thing. It is apt. It's like they're taking a chance and they should just see it through.
See it through.
No matter what.
You'd have way more Aquaman if you saw it through.
Harvey Aquaman.
Oh,
Here we go.
yes, actually, that could work. Like, yeah.
Friends and followers, that was the latest episode of Back Issues. If you want to check out more, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned, we have stacks more for you coming